A while back, I demoed a blower/vacuum that had a 90-watt motor. Here's the 60-watt Air Max A1 from Colbor. Charge it up and press this button till you see the green light. Click the on-off button again and you get a bright work light. Move the slider up to attenuate the motor. Thread this cone on one end to focus the jet stream. Thread on the other end to focus the vacuum action. Great for filling an air tube. A handy tool in a sweet form factor. Next up, the finished piece of the first walkthrough.
As a grandparent, I just love seeing my grandkids building KiwiCo crates. But we're not just building rockets and robots. These crates are helping them build their creativity and curiosity while building their love of science and art. And my favorite part, the memories we get to build together. Sign up for KiwiCo to gift monthly crates that build a lifelong love of learning. Get building today at trykiwico.com.
We had a day to capture 5 straightforward scenes with young kids. The first setup in the front yard needed next to nothing from me, so I could start lighting in the house. But before I took off, we made a fun rig for the phone because both the phone and regular camera captured that first scene. After that, we had our talent on the floor. We keyed with the Godox F600 by 4x4 flex light and boomed in an Amaran F22C to act as the window light. We covered the window outside with a half-soft frost. Then we moved to the living room area for 2 scenes that were similar. The main light came through the windows, and then we added an extra pop with a 60C inside. Out back, the lights coming through were a 1200B and a Fresnel for a 3/4 back on the main talent, and the 900C was used to create the breakup on the back wall. Then it was on to the kitchen, where a KinoFlow Max acted as the key while the Amaran F22C gave us a keyside edge and the feel of the window, while an Evoke 1200B came through the window to play on the background. We also hung a 60C as a backer on Mom. The folks at Lincoln Street Studios are always a pleasure to work with. Next, we have an interview in a primary school classroom. We started with a large, rather sidey key that had a 1200B into an 8x8 and Honeycrates LCD. Then we added the Godox F600 by to wrap the key and function like a large eye light. We flew in a KinoFlow Air Max and added an Orion 675 into the ceiling for general ambience. There's a 2x3 Ultra Bounce snuck in there for a subtle opposite key edge and fill. Here's a shoot at a small stage where we set up a step-by-step guide for new hearing aids. We saw the live presenter and product close-ups from the front and above. We keyed with the F600 by and double broke it with an 8x8 Magic Cloth. We used the existing old-style tubed Image 80 Kinos that belonged to the stage for the white cyc background and added our own KinoFlow Air Max for a backlight. And 2 60Cs with spotlight mounts were brought in as needed to accent the product. We overbuilt the camera rig for the top shot using a ladder truss, but it was plenty sturdy. Then I worked on some interstitial stand-ups and interviews for the semifinals of the EA Sports Madden Bowl.
And for one competitor in the 14-person field, a Madden Bowl victory will put him firmly atop of Madden's mountaintop. That is King Henry, of course. With a career earnings of over $870,000, Henry is already this generation's GOAT, the greatest of all time. But getting to Vegas for the final and winning the bowl means Henry is the Madden's first millionaire.
Something that goes on your resume. mean everything to win the first Madden Bowl ring. I think I want that more than $1 million.
Getting the first ring would be so sick, and like, I don't know what it looks like, but like, a belt really has no like way of ever being shown off, where like, I really feel like you could kind of show a ring off.
Oh, is that the ring? Okay.
Oh, this is the ring. Oh man.
But winning this year's inaugural ring will be no easy task. Amongst this year's stacked field are competitors who have won nearly $4 million in total, including 8 belt winners.
And the road to a Madden millionaire continues through Las Vegas.
I'm gonna celebrate tonight because I won tonight, but the game isn't for like another week. Main focus is just gonna be practice and like give the utmost respect because I mean it's the last game of the year. It has to gain all my attention.
I really don't care about his quest for $1 million. It could mean less to me. I care about my resume, my legacy, and you know, me winning that money. It has really nothing to do with like the story that he has building up. It's really just all about my accomplishments.
How bad do I think Wes wants? He wants it bad. Man, he wants it bad. He's never won one. And like you add in the money, the atmosphere, you add in everything, I know he wants it bad.
We set up a black background for game face looks and posing with the winner's ring. And we set up a white seamless background for pre- and post-game interviews with the competitive gamers. For both setups, we used Hudson Spider keys that belonged to the traveling camera people, and then added 2 Freestyle 41s for the white background and a few Titan tubes with Honey Crate's Baby Bees for backers on the black set. We also used a 60C with an ellipsoidal front, very narrow for that sort of red laser look. It was a fun time, but the loadout on the last day was on the wet side. Here's another job where we set up for a day-long interview. This is our AC, Joe, sitting in. We keyed with the F600 by and softened that with a 6x6 of half grid and edged with a Kineflow Air Max. Outside, we topped the window with a 12x12 Ultra white side up and covered the window with a single net. Through a smaller window on camera left, we drove in an Orion 675 in the Aperture Spotlight Max to add some interest to the background credenza. We didn't have the right adapter for the Sackler Active tripod, so we shitty-rigged a hi-hat to the Dana. I've since ordered the correct adapter for the future. Here you can see Grip Ariel Rosenbaum sitting in a corporate setting where we keyed with an Anlux Dyno 1200C through an 8x Magic, backed with a Kineflow Air Max and an Orion 675 in an Anlite spot mount to edge out the background chair and love seat. The Dyno 1200C is at a pretty low setting, and we still added a layer of soft frost between the panel and the Magic Cloth. There's also a Felix Q5 providing a small smash of light on the left side of frame. And last but not least, the glow inside the Practical in the background was created with an Astera Hydra panel inside a DMG dome. The second half of this day was in a private home, and we set up in a room that was on the small side. So we broke out the 2400B and shone it in from the outside. Powered it with the dual amperage cable, and we double broke it inside. Inside we had a similar matte backlight and popped a 675 with an Anlite spot mount to bring up the background. A great group of folks pulling together to build a good story from many voices. Here we are on the small stage at Meets the Eye, differentiating different parts of the story with bold colors and adding some gags for humor. We keyed frontally with a 900C into a DOP Choice Rabbit Rounder 3-foot Octa, edged with 2 Kineflow Maxes, and brought up the colors with 2 Airy Sky Panel S60Cs. The spaghetti gag was fun to figure out on the fly, and then get the timing and positioning of the dump just right. The main thing was to make the turn nodal. I used the center ear of a Menace Arm rig and attached a speed rail to junior receiver at the end of the pipe in order to grab the measuring cup. Good times. Here's another interview setup. again with Ariel kind enough to sit in. And again, we keyed with the Nanlux Dyno 1200C and flew in a Kinoflow Air as a backer. To bring up the background, I threw up 2 Kinoflow Air Max units, but did not add their modifiers. They worked fine raw at low output to bring up the background just enough, but not too much as to take attention away from our subject. We also had a 4x flop for a fill. The shot had a very Wes Anderson-like feel. We used an iDirect and provided an Astera Hydra panel for a slight pop on the interviewer. This is a bathroom we lit recently. We wanted a nice soft push from the window side, left of frame, so that came from the F600 buy with its new grid from Andre of Grip to Order in Ukraine. But then we wanted the feel of bright sunlight too, so that came from an unsoftened 60C in a spot mount against the back wall. And to add some far side light to the toilet, as though it was coming from opposite the window light on the right side of frame, we used a boomed CRLS 25 number 3 lit with a 900C and its most narrow intensifier. The young talent that made the shot work looked great. And yes, that is actually a prop toilet. And lastly, I put this together for an online class presented to relatively new vloggers to give them a window into the world of lighting corporate videos. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time. Just to show you really quickly, here's a setup where we're just doing one interview in this whole day, but we brought all this gear in and we're keying it with a 4-foot by 4-foot flex unit that is 600 watts, and then there's a backlight, so that's another matte unit, and then there's a little edge light there, but we have a window here, and the window is so bright that we've brought down the shades, and we've also added a little break up here on the wall, and that is coming from a unit here that has an attachment on it where you can put in what are called gobos. Those are breakup patterns. So it breaks it up as though it's, just like an organic, like a tree or something. And then we've also put a little blue gel on it to make it cooler because it was too warm. And then this backlight you can see is on a boom and a stand that we crank up. And then there's a bounce light here for a little bit of fill. So those are all the units that we're using just for one person's stand-up in this location. And there comes Mr. Sun. And when the sun comes around, it will bring up the floor, but we're hoping that we have just enough time before it starts creeping up too far. And we're not actually seeing the floor, but we do have 2 angles of cameras. One camera is on rails over here, so it goes back and forth on a little dolly, and then the other one is fixed. And then there's a teleprompter, and that'll show up on there. So here you can see our stand-in. This is the AC Jansen, and so that was the Dana Dolly slider, closer angle, and then you have the fixed camera. That's the main shot, and here is where the client will stand and look at the 2 shots at the same time. And then all behind that, and we're just at the end of this hall, here is all the equipment. So this is all my lighting stuff here on the left, 3 carts, and then some extra stuff as well, and a nice sign for the folks that wonder what's going on.